So we're all familiar with this guy, right? Well, forget that thing. I'm here to show you something way cooler, and it happens right here. The 11th chip glitch in Mega Man Battle Network 3 is a bug that is so odd in its function that it feels like it shouldn't exist, so clean in its execution that it weirdly almost feels intended, and so absurdly game-smashingly powerful that it plays a significant role in elevating Battle Network 3 to a contender for my favorite game of all time. Now, for better or for worse, this glitch does not feature in the new Legacy Collection, but I think that's all the more reason for me to tell you its tale today. I'm Levin Setti, and this is the 11th chip glitch. Mega Man Battle Network is a real-time, turn-based, tactical action card battler. If you want to know more about that, check out this video. Every turn, you draw a selection of chips from your folder. If you're new to the series, pretend I said cards from your deck, and choose some of them to take with you to fight for an 8-second long turn. As you can see, there are 10 slots for chips in the draw, hence why the 11th chip is a glitch. Here's how chip selection normally looks and works with the proper equipment to draw 10 chips at a time. Pick a chip, the game grays out chips that can't be selected alongside it, and then you can pick more, or come all the way over here, say OK, and send them to Mega Man for the next turn. It's pretty straightforward, but if you finagle that Navi customizer equipment just a little bit and fit one more custom one piece or equivalent in there, let's see how things change. The default is a 5-chip draw, and here I've got +1 natively for my custom style, 2 pieces for custom 1, 1 piece for custom 2, and a hub batch which includes another custom 1 effect. That's a total of +6 to my custom window draw for a final count of 11 chips. So then, in battle, we cursor all the way over to our 10th chip, press right one more time, and it takes us to the OK. Nothing happens. There's no glitch. Aww. I lied. People died. Come back for a real video next week. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. If we select the chip from our regular pool of 10 first and then scroll on over again, where is my cursor? What is that chip? Where are we? Well, let's try and select it. What the heck happened up there? I'm pretty sure that's not the chip I picked before. Well, let's run with it. And back for another turn. Let's see what we can do. Oops. Looks like I've slid over to number 11 again. And I want that one, so let's take it. It happened again? But I only have 1 copy of Meteors in my folder. You can only have 1 copy of Meteors in your folder. What is going on? This is the 11th chip glitch. My favorite glitch of all time in action. What the 11th chip glitch does is let you pick a particular battle chip in your folder and not only guarantee that you will have access to that chip on the first turn, regardless of what you actually draw, but every single turn, no matter how many copies you are actually running or how many times you use it. And that chip will be the one you've placed in the second slot of your folder on the editing screen. We'll talk about why that is a little later. Now, the game naturally has an option to set what's called a regular chip, which will be the first thing you draw in every battle, but there are limitations on what you can select, and it'll be gone after 1 use. You can see what a ridiculous power spike this glitch represents by comparison. And Battle Network 3 gives you some absolutely absurd options to abuse with this ability. The most famous is, of course, that bonkers blue version GigaChad GigaChip folder back. You can just spam this to renew your whole folder, including folder back itself, redraw a newly shuffled hand, and instantly reselect chips for a new turn. Basically, you get to freeze the action indefinitely until you draw exactly the combo you want, which might include a naturally drawn folder back at the end so that you can then do it again. Can you see why it was important to patch this out for a game with online ranked multiplayer? But if you'd rather not snap the game in half 4 times over and want to at least keep a semblance of sportsmanship, we've got crazy options like these. Meteors, which can rain down a combo that deals almost double the HP of any boss in the game. There's Proto Man, the ultimate answer to random encounters. Flashman, who requires no aiming, pierces nearly every defensive option in the game, and leaves the enemy stunned, waiting for whatever awful thing you might do next. And you can even do wild stuff and glitch something like Guardian. Since it's a mega chip in Battle Network 3, you're usually limited to just one copy in your folder, but this actually allows you to put up 2 at once. It'd be pretty interesting in PvP, but unfortunately we can't really see that timeline because of how broken so many other options are. And on one hand, all that can remove a lot of the game's difficulty and trivialize things that should be pretty challenging. On the other, this can bypass a huge amount of RNG in a game where you sometimes have to spend a chunk of time looking for a specific rare random encounter, and then also need to rely on luck to get a decent draw so you can perform on a level to earn the rewards you want from that battle. I think of it as a nice failsafe. It was there to help with challenges that were maybe a little bit mismatched with some of that early 2000s game design, and also made some cool unintended strategies possible. And frankly, if you've watched my channel before, you might know I get a kick out of games that let you become really ridiculously, unbelievably, untouchably powerful. It's pretty cool to make a game bend to your whims like this, especially as a kid. So what actually causes this glitch to happen? I have always wanted to know this and never been able to find a solid explanation of the glitch online. So I reached out to a well-known super expert on the code of the Battle Network series, Prof 9 of the Rockman EXE zone. All of the following information is 100% thanks to Prof, and if you find it interesting, you should follow Prof 9 on Twitter and check out the Rockman EXE zone, especially their glitch wikis. Links in the description, please show them some love while you're liking and subscribing. But I'm gonna do my best to summarize what I've learned, and feel free to comment down below about how you have a PhD in software engineering from Stanford and you think I did a fantastic or terrible job. Well, the key thing is that Capcom apparently didn't think to put a failsafe in place to prevent us from going over the limit of 10 chips in a draw. And because of that, the game doesn't quite know how to handle interacting with that 11th chip. The shortest, simplest explanation is that in the code of the game, the data defining which chips you drew and which chips you've selected for the turn are stored right next to each other. And sliding over to that 11th chip in the draw means that data intended for the chip draw section is instead being applied to and interpreted by the selected chip section, resulting in the glitchy behavior. To go a little more in depth, the game represents the data of your chip draw and your chip selection as 2 arrays, right next to each other, which we are going to think of as boxes. The first box contains exactly 10 slots, and the second contains exactly 5, for the 10 chips you can draw and the 5 you can select. The 10th slot of the first box and the first slot of the second box are directly next to each other in the game's memory. Remember this, it's important. As you select and deselect chips, different values are assigned to the slots in the first box, the chip draw box, defining each slot as either still selectable, meaning no change from the default, selected, shown as black, or now unselectable, represented by being grayed out. At the same time, the values held in the second box, the selected chips box, are also updated, with values referring to each chip by the numerical position it occupies in your folder. Since the game doesn't stop you from accessing the 11th chip in the chip draw, but only has 10 slots to hold data in that box, when you select that 11th chip, the game tries to update the value held in the slot right after the slot for the 10th chip, which, as you may recall, would be the slot defining the first chip in your chip selection. And as it would happen, the specific value that the game uses to define a drawn chip as selected is 0x01. So when that value is applied to the first slot of the selected chip box instead of the drawn chip box, it means something completely different because of how the game reads data from that box. And since counting in computer programming starts at 0, the value of 0x01 in the context of chip selection refers to, have you already figured out what I'm gonna say? The second position in your folder, which is why your already selected chip morphs into that one. As a little bonus piece of explanation, the reason we can't actually slide over to the 11th chip slot until we've already picked a chip is because the default value held in the second box when no chip is selected is 0xFF, which reads as a slot that does not exist when interpreted in the context of a chip draw. So the game stops you from moving the cursor over to it until we select a chip and change that value in the chip selection box to something else. I think this is so insanely cool. When I started looking for information on this, I expected it to just be that the game went looking for data anywhere, and the first thing it found happened to line up with the memory address of the second chip in your folder. But I only ever took Intro to Comp Sci, and I think the true explanation is vastly cooler and way more interesting. A huge thank you again to Prof9 for answering a question I've had for 20 years, and making me appreciate Battle Network 3 even more than I already did. So why is this glitch so special to me? Why do I love it so much? I vividly remember hearing about Missing No on my school bus back in the day. That glitch was a huge part of the experience I had with, and affection I still feel toward, Pokemon Red and Blue. And the 11th chip glitch is really similar to me. While it's not nearly as storied, it has arguably an even more powerful positive effect in a game that I actually like a lot more. But the 11th chip doesn't carry any of the weird negatives and risks that Missing No can bring about, while being similarly pretty easy to access once you know how to do it. And being in a game that's about the internet and viruses, where installing glitches onto Mega Man himself is an actual gameplay mechanic, a neat little exploit like this is just too perfectly fitting. The 11th chip glitch exists in this weird liminal space, almost the uncanny valley of what Battle Network gameplay is supposed to look like. Everything is almost totally normal and doesn't look too out of place, except for the subtle ways it completely breaks the game's UI. This kind of serendipitous, unintended feature that goes beyond what the developers intended but carries such strong and memorable positive effects is often what makes the difference between a great game and a legendary game to me. It's the only glitch I know that I'd say can go toe-to-toe with Missing No, and I think that's really worth something. Hopefully learning about this trick and how it works brightened your day and broadened your horizons. Once again, I'm Levin Setti, and I've got more Mega Man Battle Network content headed your way real soon, so like, comment, subscribe, and keep an eye out for it. Thanks one more time to Prof9, and till then.